Okay, there's your warning. We're recording now, so anything you say. Good morning. Thanks for joining us. Um, we usually always hold off till September to kick these things off, so starting off on the first, we didn't waste any time. Um, wanted to just a few things. It was nice to see the rain yesterday. I haven't heard any totals over to the east of us. Maybe John can chirp in. I've heard some numbers around the Wasco area at 4,200. So plus or minus that is definitely appreciated this time of year. Um, few MCP harvest stats. Right now, we're probably sitting at about 9.8 million bushels of intake system wide. That number, usually throughout the year, typically we can see about another million bushels come in from home storage. A lot of times, though, in a down year, there's not as much stored on the farm just because people are able to get back and forth to the elevator. They're not trying to maximize the combine, staying running in the field. So we'll see what happens with that. At this point in the year, we're probably somewhere between 10 to 20% sold. It's pretty quiet buying wheat. A couple other things to hit on. Your crop protection revenue insurance finished out with your projected harvest price at 694 through the month of August versus that 958 guarantee. And then next year starting out for next year's coverage, the projections are starting out here at 792. So we'll see where things play. Throughout the month of August, futures took a hit. I pulled some quick stats off Northwest Grain Growers website. Corey up there does a great job on his commentary, and so he put a little tidbit in there that actually during the month of August, the September contract for Chicago futures gave up $1 over the entire month. Only closed in the green 8 times that month, and those days weren't very big. I don't recall.
There was one good one.
I think we had one good, big double digit one, and the rest were pretty small. So obviously that was probably the case if we ended up giving up $1 on it. So, but good news is overnight was up last night, continued to stay up this morning. Jeff's probably looking at the numbers right now, but we were up probably 8 to 10 cents when I looked earlier.
Seven
So,
cents.
so we're up about 7 now. So that's kind of holding. Like I said, if we're working on that next year coverage price for insurance, we definitely would like a rally. Jump in right quick and look at the bid sheet. Nobody probably wants to look at those prices. One thing I did want to go over though is on page 3. It's just looking at the bid structure. MCP is putting out an ordinary bid this year on our prices. So you take a look there. Yeah, you look at the website, it says 665. I've gotten phone calls asking why we're bidding that, and somebody else is, publishing a $6.80 bid. Thing is, they're bidding that max 10.5 number on your protein, and you're getting a discount if you're above 10.5 on your protein and a premium if you're lower than that. So if you look on the left-hand side of that piece of paper, below where it says bid, that's actually the protein percentage. And then if you look at, say, that column that says others, that's an example where somebody's bidding a maximum 10.5 bid. And the MCP is based on our ordinary protein bid. So at those different protein levels, you can compare and see exactly, what the price level is at a given protein level. So don't always think that we're out there trying to bid 10 or 15 cents under somebody else, because when you can compare the numbers, you can see that they're pretty close in line. It appears as if there's a protein premium in the market. I would argue that's not probably the case. The fact is, most of our buyers are looking for a maximum 10.5 protein spec. That's where the market seems to be. You have some of them that'll go, maximum 11% because they might be able to buy it a little bit cheaper. You get the government coming in with the CCC business. When they're buying and donating wheat to, say, Yemen, they're buying ordinary protein. The only real, major spec on that we've got to try to hit is you can't be less than 58 pounds per bushel, which this year that could be a challenge sometimes if, depending on where you were at. So is this protein, I don't even want to call it a premium protein deal, going to continue throughout the year? I don't really foresee it getting any higher than what it is right now. Given the fact that in our growing region, and let's say to the east and the north a little bit, you stretch out towards Walla Walla, those areas did see a higher than average protein crop this year. As you move north from there and east into the Palouse Highline country, those guys got a little more timely rain, didn't get quite as warm weather when we did, and their protein is closer to what you would say a quote unquote normal year would be. That being said, there's a lot of wheat in that area that can fulfill these maximum 10.5 protein specs. So it's not like our entire PNW region is super high and they're looking for the low protein wheat to blend it. The exporters aren't having to do that. So they're not having to pay up a premium for low protein wheat. It's, when I call and get the bid structure from them, or they call us every morning and give us their pricing, what they were doing is giving us a maximum 10.5 bid. And then at some points, during harvest, we might have, especially early harvest, I don't know, Jeff, what we're seeing 35 cent discount at the highest probably for, something that was over 10.5. So
that's about 15 cents.
And now it's tightened up, so it's not as strong as what it was, that discount during harvest. So things have improved there as more protein, because obviously we're the first ones in the system to really start harvest, and they start seeing some of the high protein numbers come in, and exporters start panicking. And then, as harvest progresses and they see that there is plenty of that, more vanilla ordinary protein wheat out there, that those things start to come down, because it's not like they're going to get inundated with super high protein wheat. So that's kind of what's happening now. Is it going to stick around and last forever? I don't think so. Not with the trend that we've seen. So if you did happen to cut some lower protein wheat, it might not be a bad idea to actually sell your lower protein first. So with that, let's take a look at the export sales report and kind of give you a little indication of why those prices are down where they're at on your cash side of things. If we look at page 4, the top of there, go into that white wheat column. We've had a couple decent weeks here for white wheat. This current week was 1.8. It's not stellar, but it beats the heck out of some of those other numbers we saw. Nearly zero there, leading up to and through harvest. We saw some really low numbers. Flipping through, I don't want to jump. Let's see. So if we take a look at wheat by class, still on that first page 4, just look at that first line of bold numbers. That would be the current week. You saw soft red wheat was actually the leader. We haven't seen that for quite a while. Give you a little indication why that was. If you flip to page 10, there is your breakdown of soft red winter. And if we go down on the right-hand side, about halfway down the page, you get your top 10 weekly export sales destinations. And there you've got your number one for the week was China at about 4 million bushels. Historically, that may have been one page farther on page 11, those sales showing up. The fact, though, soft red wheat is probably about the cheapest in the world right now. Obviously, you've got depending on which market that's going to, you got some, freight that you got to figure in there. But soft red is the cheapest, and we all know that China doesn't usually go out shopping for the most expensive wheat in the marketplace. Um, Soft red and soft white can somewhat be, um,
Blended anyway.
blended together. So you've got that, which that tells you China is in the market, but it's got to be at the right price. You guys don't want to hear the fact that 665 isn't low enough yet, but who knows where that's going to be. And it gets difficult as well because there's, like I said earlier, it's been pretty slow buying wheat. It's that way throughout the entire region. And so if I don't have the wheat if I don't own it, I can't sell it. These exporters, China was kicking the tires when they bought that soft red. They were looking for soft white prices. And at that time, the exporters, I'm just going to speculate, they were probably offering it out at 705, 710. It's kind of right before, it's this data is a couple weeks old. So it's before we saw the recent little slip in prices. They can't go out and just basically whatever their bid is today, turn around and offer to sell something 2 months down the road that's going to actually ship when there's not a lot of wheat being traded in the marketplace. I mean, it gets pretty dang risky. We've all seen futures volatility. I mean, who wants to put on just a straight basis bid or, position? It could get a little dicey one way or another with futures. And so they've got to, price in that little bit of cushion there because they don't know exactly what they're going to buy it at, especially 2 months down the road. We looked at some of those insurance, a lot of guys were holding off on selling anything because they're anticipating an insurance check. So you got to manage your tax flow for tax liability and everything else like that. So it's made the marketplace is a little different this year. So as wheat starts moving, it's kind of a catch-22, which comes first. Farmers start selling, or we see a pickup in export sales, which is probably going to push prices up. But if people don't want to buy it, those prices, who's going to want to sell? So it's kind of chase our tail around and around. So I talked to a guy that's been in the business a long time. He goes, well, no year's ever the same. So this one's going to be different for sure. With that, I know there was some, Japan was in last night. MAF was in for a purchase. It was about 17,000 tons. I haven't heard any results on that yet, on any sales prices or anything that stuff went at, or who sold it. That could be kind of tricky as well because it's a October 20 through possibly Nov 20 shipment period. And these export elevators, a lot of their elevation for that time frame with corn and soybeans coming on, they've already got those, the elevators booked up for that. So could be kind of interesting. Like, space and elevation could be at a premium that time. So it'll be interesting to see what those prices were offered at. Take a look at the world scale. Egypt was in this week as well and bought wheat. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, they bought French and Romanian wheat on that one.
Enough though.
No, it's not enough to really move the peg, but that business has been Russian. Russia supposedly, all their offers were at $270 a metric ton. These ones from France and Romania had to come in obviously lower than that. Some freight issues there, differential on prices. It was definitely low enough though. They were able to get the business. We'll have to see that continue to maybe get people a little, intrigued on being a buyer instead of a seller of futures. So that's definitely a step in the right direction. We take a look at Australia. Don't have to tell you guys the El Nino effects and dryness. It's hitting there as well. I haven't started to see any yield projections out of there yet, but obviously all I hear is lower, which could still be lower from the last 3 years, and it could still be a big crop. But I don't anticipate that with the dryness issues that I have heard. That Russian number that I was telling you at 270 a metric ton, there is rumors out there, and course, they're just rumors that that's their price floor they're offering to, the government. If it's a private deal and they're friendly with them, it could potentially be $10 a ton lower. So until we see those values come up a little more, that's probably going to keep a lid on some of that stuff. And they announced yesterday or the day before that they were upping their estimate on production another million tons. So they just keep finding more wheat, and that's going to be an anchor on your futures prices. But with that, I'll open it up to questions if anybody's got anything.
I read something yesterday on.
Speak up.
Yesterday on some ad form about the Panama Canal that shippers are bidding to get cut in line. Like one shipper paid like $2.4 million to cut in line.
Yeah. So if you got a cargo with soft red and you want to pay that price, it's an extra buck a bushel. So
Josh was, for you guys online, Josh was talking about the Panama Canal and the shipping problems they're having with the low water levels. Space is at a premium, and basically it's turning into a bidding war. Yeah, you might be way back in line, but if you want to pay more money, you can move up in line and get your goods through there sooner. And Jeff was just adding that
corn and soybeans going to Asia.
Yeah, what that's going to do is it's going to put more of a press to, instead of shipping them out of the Gulf, to ship them out of the PNW, which in turn is going to put, your elevation space at a premium too. People are going to be willing to pay more to ship it out here. It's going to put more strain on the rail. Haven't heard anything the last couple of weeks, but during harvest, the rail performance was not very good. We had some opportunities to sell truck wheat into the valley just because the rail couldn't keep up, but UP had a whole slew of hiring that was coming on, and we were told that by the time those people are trained up, it's going to be a couple more weeks of slow performance, and we haven't heard any more calls really after that to ship wheat in. So I'm going to assume, based on just that at least localized, that the performance has increased. So but you start shipping cargo after cargo out of the PNW, out of Tacoma and Portland, Longview area, you're going to put a strain on that stuff. So, and then if we get into a wet weather pattern, obviously it slows up loading. You can't have the hatches open on the ships when it's a downpour. So that puts another ripple in things. So anyway, with that, I don't see any questions out there. I don't see anything in the chat. You guys all know how to get a hold of us, and we'll see you again in 2 weeks. Talk to you later.